Hello and welcome to the cast assessment for 1984 Rewrite the Stars. With me, I have two past winners of 1984, Zach and Tyler. Tyler is obviously in production as well this season. We are here to assess the cast of this second chances season. This is our third or fourth season that has returnees. It is our second season that is all returnees. I'm really excited to see how this season goes. We are going to go in reveal order. So we will start with Chloe. Does anybody specific want to start? Okay.
I can start.
Go for it.
Okay, so Chloe is one of my top favorites for this cast. I do think she really deserved a second chance because I don't think anybody really knows why she was first boot. But it happened and now she's back. I worry for her in this cast, especially like I don't know, just the early stages of the game. I do think she could be a potentially early boot. I don't think she's gonna be first boot. But I could see her being like a third, fourth-ish boot. I don't know. Her social game seems pretty good for now, but I think Chloe's also the kind of player to just kind of neglect everyone she doesn't like, and just talk to the people she does like. So, so far, I'm getting the vibe that Chloe is vibing with like half the house. However, I don't think it's the half the house with connections. And I do think that could hurt her in these upcoming rounds, but I'm rooting for her. She's one of my top supports for sure. So,
I also have high hopes for her, but I don't know if my hopes are going to match the reality of what ends up happening. She was on my original season and she got first boot. When she was put up as the renom, she kind of didn't really campaign to anyone, and she definitely had a chance to stay because a lot of people did like her because she's a very likable and social person, but she didn't really campaign, and so she ended up kind of just going home just because of that. So I hope that if she ends up on the block this season as a final nominee, she doesn't repeat that behavior and she actually really fights to stay because she's definitely a social player and a likable person, and I think that if she brings that to the table, people will want to keep her. But like Tyler said, I could easily see her kind of, doing her own thing and only talking to people she wants to talk to. But yeah, I'm supporting her and I have high hopes for her, but I don't really know how many connections she has here aside from the people from her original season, though I don't really think she worked with any of the ones we brought back. So.
So Chloe's the only first boot on this season, but I do think that she has a lot of potential. I think a lot of what happened in her season was circumstantial, and I do think, yes, she didn't talk to people, but I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that she was up against Josh. I'm definitely very interested to see how she will fare in this cast. She definitely has some connection. She is in at least one chat already with Peyton and Sam. So that's such a weird trio, by the way. I don't know how that happened, but I do think that she has a good shot of at least making jury, maybe just with her personality. But I'm not sure. I also feel like she's definitely the type of person that could get caught in the crossfire or something. She's obviously last time she went home as the pawn, and I could easily see that happening to her again. So I don't necessarily know if I see Chloe as a winner of the season, but I do know she's going to give us a lot of entertainment, even if she's only here for a short amount of time. So I'm really excited to see Chloe actually get a chance. I know that the HOH did openly promise her that she would not be put up, especially because she was a first boot. So we'll see if that is stuck to, because obviously last time she was promised safety, she ended up leaving. So yeah.
I do want to say that her prod chat has me fucking dying like all the time. She
Oh,
is
it's
so
it's
funny.
literally one of my favorites. I love listening to Chloe talk. It's so funny. Okay, next up, coming from season 1, we have Sebastian.
Uh, I think he's going to be set up fairly well in the early game for sure. It seems like he does have a lot of friends here, and even the people he's not super friends with, they seem to like him to a degree. Um, so I think he's set up that way. And I'm not saying that he's gonna ride with his friends the whole time, but you know, it's one of those things in orgs where like if you have friends, you're not gonna target them first. Like that's just how it goes. Um, I do think that his connections to Rachel may set him up for failure, and I feel like people might take a shot at him to not directly take a shot at Rachel, because I do think Rachel is the more connected one in that like friend group. But I have hopes for Seb. I think he can do well. Um, I think it matters how he plays his cards, and I think he needs to try not to work super close with Rachel if he wants to do well, because if he's the final nominee with Rachel, I don't see him staying. So, so far, I think he's in a good spot, but we'll see if that continues.
Yeah, I really honestly think that Seb is going to make it really far. I'm predicting like a honestly like top like 5 placement for him. I feel like he has a lot of connections here, and as Tyler said, just because they're his friends, he might not necessarily work with them, but there's no way he's going to target them. He's not going to get like a week 2 HOH and like put up Rachel and Jerry or whatever. Like it's just not going to happen. It wouldn't make any sense for him to do that. So even though they might not be his final 2 or 3 or 4, he's still not going to put them up. So he has a lot of people who are going to be keeping him safe when they get HOHs, and if he can really integrate himself with the rest of the house, then he could easily be set up from all sides. However, like Tyler also said, I could easily see him getting put up as a pawn next to any number of the people that he's friends with in there. And maybe he does end up going home, maybe he doesn't. But I think that if the other people who are not within this friend group were smart, they would put up someone like Seb with another member of that friend group, whether it be Rachel or Jerry or Justin or whatever, you know. So I could easily see him getting put up as a result of his connections, but he may or may not go home, obviously. So I think that he'll do well, though. I do.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see Seb back for a very long time. So I'm very excited to see him actually get a shot. I just played with him a couple months ago, and he was definitely like he was idled out. So he was definitely a front runner when I played with him. He does have a lot of connections, as you guys said, between Rachel, Justin, Grace, Josh, and then I think the most important and notable one is Madison, because they just met up and posted a picture of it in the alumni chat, which I kind of warned him not to do, but I didn't want to like obviously drop that they were going to be casted together, but yeah, I think that's going to be a big hurdle for him eventually, I think. I don't know how soon though, so yeah, I do think that Seb's got a really good shot of making it pretty far. I don't know if he's my winner pick yet or not. I think I kind of want to like dwell on it while we're talking, but I do think he has a really good shot, and I'm really excited to get to see him really play, because the first time he played this game, it was obviously his first org, and so he didn't really know what was going on. So now that he's more experienced, he has a win under his belt, like I want to see what he can really do. So. Next up is our first HOH, which is Justin, who got second boot in season 5.
Okay, so I don't know. I think Justin connection wise is set up fairly well. However, based off like his first couple messages in his like prod chat, he kind of looks like he's gonna be like he's gonna get HOH itis, I feel like. And he's gonna go on a little spree of like, is he gonna get to his head? And I worry for him because from my knowledge, it kind of looks like everyone he wants to work with, or no, everyone that wants to work with him, he doesn't want to work with. So it's kind of confusing to me. I know Madison was one of them where Madison was talking very highly of Justin in her prod chat, and then Justin immediately went to his prod chat, and I know not in these words, but basically said, "Fuck Madison, I'm not working with her." And so I'm like kind of confused by that. Justin, I know as a player, is also very messy. He I just feel like he doesn't really put in all the effort until he's in like a dangerous scenario, which at that point it's too late. Um, I do think he has a fire under his ass though to at least vote once. So I really hope he gets that opportunity, and I do think he'll do decent if he plays his cards right.
Um, from what I've seen of him in other orgs and other games, yeah, I think he's pretty messy, and I feel like under pressure he doesn't really thrive well. Whereas other players, when they get put up on the block or whatever, they get going and they start ramping it up and they really pull out their social game and they work well under pressure. I feel like for him it's the opposite. He kind of like spirals under pressure, and obviously it doesn't really, you know, help him if that's what he typically does. And from what I've seen, that's what I've seen. I think he has a lot of social connections here as well, but I feel like he's in that group of like Rachel and Seb and them, but I feel like he could also be taken out easily by getting put up with Rachel at some point, or anyone else from that group. And I just don't feel like, I don't really expect him to necessarily make the outside social connections that he would need to, that maybe someone like a Rachel or Seb would make. I feel like he's going to be lacking in that department. So when he does go up, I don't really feel like he'll have the votes to stay at that point. So I don't really know how well he'll do. I feel like late pre-jury is something I would predict for him. I hope I'm wrong because I do like him, but that's kind of what I'm feeling. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
So Justin's somebody that has like begged me to come back for a long time, and so he was definitely somebody I wanted to get on this cast as soon as we decided what we were doing for the season. So yeah, so as you guys like kind of mentioned, he was the first HOH, but it was like in the Power of Three thing in his season, and so he didn't really have much control. And then people in his Power of Three, which was Jason and Caitlin, were able to like spin it around onto him. So I think this season Justin does feel like he has something to prove. So him getting first HOH is a very interesting position for him. I'm not really sure what he's going to do with it yet, so there's that. In Big Brother, Justin really doesn't do that well. He said he's literally never voted in a Big Brother org. I know he's at least played 3 that I know of. So hopefully he gets to do that this time. Starting off not so good though with being HOH. So I don't know, but yeah, I think Justin has a good amount of friends here. I did hear a couple people saying that like they want to get Justin to jury. I don't know what would happen after that, but he does have people that like recognize how bad he's done in the past, and they want to like at least help him with that. So not I'm not sure how to feel about Justin going into this season. But I do respect like how much he wants to play. So I'm very excited to just see how he does this season. So next up is Miss Rachel Ross, who was 11th place last season.
I don't think she's gonna win. I think she's gonna go really far though. I would be absolutely shocked. Like if this was a betting game, I would put everything I have in a fund to she's gonna make jury. I'm pretty certain of it, unless some crazy thing happens that blows up and she doesn't. Um, but it's like she's friends with half the cast. The other half of the cast all I think wants to work with her more than her friends, honestly. Um, so I'm just looking at her from the standpoint. I'm amazed. If anything, I'm kind of confused how she has all these people like under her spell right now. Um, and I'm not saying they're gonna want to work with her forever, but if I was in this cast and I did not know Rachel, that would probably be someone I was targeting. Um, so I don't know what she did, but whatever she did, it worked. I think she's gonna do really well. I think she's gonna get a solid, I want to say like sixth, fifth. I think people will recognize that she is a super big threat toward the end of the game. However, come final six, final five, she might be able to win her way out. I don't see a lot of comp beasts in this cast. So if they let her go that far, that might be a death sentence for them. But at the same time, Rachel is good at comps, but she's not great at all comps. She has her weaknesses, and I don't know if she's capable of winning out. But I guess we'll see when that time comes. But I'm rooting for her. I'm rooting for her, but not like I don't know. That's where I'm at.
I mean, no comp beast. You forget how Madison ate that cookie off her face last season? Like comp beast, hello, they're all over this season. No, I was literally going to say I predict a fifth or sixth for Rachel. That is the exact placement I feel like she's gonna get because I feel like no one's gonna come for her so early because, like you said, everyone feels good with her somehow. And if there's one or two people out there who don't, they're probably going to be too scared to put her up, and they should be because there's probably no way she's going home. So I feel like she's just probably locked into jury. And then I feel like once jury hits, people will or should start to see the connection she has and start realizing, hey, this is kind of like ridiculous. Like all these people are with her, like whatever. And they'll be a little too scared still to take a shot at her for like ninth, eighth, seventh. But I feel like around sixth or fifth, when they can really make a move with only a few people, I feel like they can and should take that shot at her then. But who knows? But yeah, that is what I predict. I just don't see why or how people could even begin to target her anytime before jury. It just doesn't make any sense or seem likely.
Yeah. So you guys pretty much said it all. Like Rachel has a lot of friends here, and all the people that are not like her close friends that like we would recognize right away as her friends are already telling us that they like her and that they want to work with her. So like when you have the whole cast saying that, like what can the rest of the cast do about it? So I don't know. Rachel just has I don't know what it is about Rachel that's just so likable. I would love to like take some lessons on that, but I don't know. I agree. I do think Rachel, like, I do think she's probably gonna make jury, if not even farther than that. But I also don't think she's gonna win because I don't think this cast, like, she's gonna have to do a lot of dirty stuff eventually, and I don't think this cast will let her get to the end. And if she does, I don't know if they'd let her win. And then also like with her just finishing up in Instinct and getting second place, like people definitely saw that, and so that'll be on their mind for sure. I know like Jay has mentioned how like even though he does like Rachel, he definitely is kind of on to her already. So if he gets HOH, like it's possible that he might try to take a shot, but I don't think he'd do it early. So yeah, I definitely think Rachel's set for a good while, but I do agree like around like fifth to eighth, she's gonna have to win a lot of comps. So yeah. Okay, next up, the 12th placer from Lights Out, Mr. Jerry.
Jerry, Okay, so I thought he was gonna be in kind of a rough spot. But based off this first day, he's found himself in a chat with um, Rachel and Seb. And then the last three on the Zoom also kind of made, I don't know if it was like an official thing or I don't know what that was, but it seemed like maybe it was something in like the process of Jerry, Jay, and Josh. Um, so I think he's kind of covering himself from a lot of angles. From my perspective anyway, maybe I'm wrong. It doesn't seem like a lot of people are talking about Jerry in their prod chats though. It just seems like they're not talking good or bad.
I think like Peyton might have been like the only one that really said anything.
Yeah, and I feel like if no one's talking good or bad about you, that in the beginning that's typically a good thing. Um, so I can see him going far for now. However, he makes his presence very known on house calls, which I think is a downfall in these games. I've noted like you don't want to be the person to talk the most, but you don't want to be the person to talk the least. And we'll get to this person later. I do think he's being overshined on these house calls, but he's definitely making his presence known. But for now, I think he's sitting pretty. But I do think he's going to be an early juror. That's what I would guess. Early juror, late pre-jury. That's yeah. That's what I think about him.
Yeah, Jerry was on my original season, and he was definitely the loudest on all the Zoom calls except for Kennedy. And he just talked. And it definitely put a target on his back from the start. People saw his social game and they saw how active he was, and just it definitely wasn't the right move. But that's just excuse me how he is in his personality. And he's really messy. He tries really, really hard, but he's messy. And so I feel like I don't know. I don't know. Like I know he has what I know he has it in him to go really far. And I know he does, but I just know he gets messy, and that's what sent him home on my season. He got paranoid that the HOH like wasn't talking to him or something, and he started running around asking everybody if he was safe, or at least this is what I heard from other people. And the paranoia got back to the HOH, and they were like, "Oh, well, I guess he doesn't trust me. He's paranoid. Let me put him up." And then he went home. So I feel like if he pulls another stunt like that, it could be a very similar situation. But if he can keep his cool and try his best to fly under the radar, which it seems like he's doing so far, week one. Again, it's day one. I mean, anything can change, but it seems like right now he's not on anyone's radar, which is how it should be. I know he has the social connections to do well, and so I think he'll do well. I'm gonna predict like 7th place.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Jerry come back. I do think like his week was kind of rough, and it was sad to see him go as early as he did, even though I did kind of predict it preseason last time. But he's another person that's been like really wanting second chances for like since he got eliminated. So I'm excited to see him get another shot. With this cast, I do think he has a good amount of connections. As I said before, Peyton had kind of mentioned his name. They were getting along pretty well on the Zoom, so I'm not sure what their relationship is like, honestly. I do think Jerry was the like vote that ended up sending Peyton home. So like that's a thing.
He did mention that on the Zoom.
Yeah, so, like yeah. Peyton mentioned it. So there's that. Jerry just made final 2 with Madison in a game, so like that's kind of a thing people are going to be aware of. And then yeah, so I do agree with Zach. Jerry is a messy player, and I think that if he gets too paranoid, he's gonna do something stupid. But I also think that like Jerry does have a good he has a good shot of making it far with this cast if he doesn't overthink things. So yeah, I'm excited to see Jerry get to play again. I don't know where to predict him. I would like to think that he's gonna make jury this time, but I'm not like 100% confident in it. So, yeah. Next up, I think Tyler kind of alluded to this person. Next up is our sixth placer from season 3, Miss Grace.
Yeah, so I initially thought Grace was going to do really well. And I'm still not convinced she's going to do poorly. Because I don't think, again, a lot of people have not really mentioned her in their prod chats, but like a little bit. It's been a little bit brief here and there. The thing about Grace on these main calls is she has not hid all these other games she's played with these people. She is openly telling people, like on these main calls, who she's worked with, who she's not worked with. Like it's like in detail about a lot of her friends in the cast. And I know Peyton's commented on it. I want to say someone else kind of commented on it in their prod chat. I don't really remember who, but she also definitely takes over the Zoom calls when she's on them. She definitely like makes the conversation revolve around her on these calls, which I don't think a lot of people like in these casts. I do like her and I hope she does well, but I think she needs to tone it down a little bit on the calls, and I think she might be fine. I do think she has it in her to talk to people. It's just like she needs to kind of quiet it down on the calls and kind of not talk about just what she wants to talk about, because I know a lot of the conversations steer in the direction that she wants them to go. And I know the call we were just on, she mentioned like Julian or whatever, and I know that she's probably the only one that cared about that topic. It's kind of like when you're on these Zoom calls, you need to find a common ground, and I don't think she's doing that. So I don't think it's helping her. I do think she's going to be an early boot, though, but she's not screwed. She can recover, but we'll see how it goes.
I've seen Grace play a lot of games, and she typically makes jury, I feel, but like not too far into jury. And I feel like that's what I would predict for her here. She's definitely very loud and open, and I feel like she is not the type of person you want to be confiding your secrets in.
Also, Michael, you have a very big fan. Like, it's very loud.
I don't feel like she's the type you want to be trusting like your secrets with and stuff. I feel like if like I just feel like she's the type to leak information, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And she definitely does dominate conversation and talk about, you know, her own past games and her own past experiences and situations, such as like with Julian, like you said. I know she talks about that a lot. And it doesn't really affect probably most of the people on the call at the time with whoever she's speaking about. So I agree. I think that she needs to tone it down, which I don't know if she's able to do. I just know that's how she is, and you know, that's totally fine, and that's why people like her. But in a game like this, it can put a target on your back, and I worry for her in that regard. But I think she'll be fine. I feel like people will like her enough where they won't want to target her. I feel like they won't see her as a threat really. So I'm feeling like jury, but like early jury. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. Grace definitely has a very loud presence on calls. And so like that definitely could rub people the wrong way. Though Kennedy was also a very loud presence on calls, and she got fourth. So it may or may not work out well for Grace. With Grace, I feel like she's connected well, but not as well as some other people. So I don't know if that will be like an advantage or a disadvantage. But yeah, so I really haven't seen Grace get pre-jury that often, but if I had to predict, I do think she would get pre-jury here, just because of like the interactions we've seen so far. I think that she could rub some people the wrong way, but or she could be like somebody that somebody wants to get rid of just because they can't trust that she's going to keep their secrets. So we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if Grace is also somebody that's just like taken really far into the game and then gets like cut off because they just don't want to sit next to her. So that's kind of how I feel about that. I do really like Grace though, so I would love to see her really get a chance to like get some power in the game, because I know in her last season, she was really close to winning comps but never did. And so it would be nice if she could like win a comp and let's see like what she would do with that. But I do also feel like she could get a little messy if she gets some power. So that'll be interesting to see. So next up is Jay from season 2. He was our 7th placer.
Well, obviously I played with Jay before. Me and him did not see eye to eye in that game at all. I think he had a major part in me being nommed my 7 times that I was. But it's playing with him, it was really weird because I don't think he doesn't like to take the front runner spot. He definitely does not like to take control. He is more of a passive player, but he's like a passive but aggressive player all in one. Like I don't even know how to explain it, but playing with him, like it makes sense. He definitely is not someone to like, if there's a front runner in the game, he is not going to be the one to take that shot. He's definitely going to sit there and kind of ride the coast as long as he can. And that's kind of why I worry for him in this cast a little bit, because I do think this is a cast where if you're one of those people who are not super connected, which I think Jay is connected with that group. Apparently he's in that whatever group chat that is, the Dreamlanders or whatever. So he definitely has that connection to them for the early part of the game. And based off what Rachel's saying in our prod chat and what Rachel's saying to everyone else, Rachel really wants to take him far. And so I think that's good for him. I know he has a connection with Connor as well and Caleb as well. And so I do think he's pretty set up for now, but I worry like if the wrong person wins HOH, he could just go because he's not super connected. He's kind of connected. I also think come jury, he's going to kind of need to step up his game. If he makes it that far, he's going to need to actually make the power moves he needs to make. Otherwise, I do see him just getting cut for like a 7th, 8th-ish placement just because the other people are working more closely. So, but I hope he does well. I always love to see a season 2 person do well. So we'll see.
I really don't know him. Like I've never really played with him. The only game I ever played with him was a 10 gauge fastings that had Rachel and Jerry and him and someone else from the cast. Oh, Justin was there. Like they were all there, so I know he's connected to that group. But I don't know. I don't know really how connected he is or how high up in like the group totem pole he is or not. And judging based off of what you said, Tyler, if he's a passive player and doesn't want to take those big shots, I just don't really know if I see him going far, because I feel like in this cast, this is a cast where you need to be aggressive and you need to really make your presence known. And if he doesn't do that or he's not one to do that, then I could easily just see him getting picked off. If, like you said, the wrong person wins HOH, I feel like he could easily be seen by the other side or someone who's not really connected as a good, easy target to take out with minimal blood on their hands. I could see it going that way for him. But I like that he's already aware of Rachel and her connections here, even though he's friends with her, and he doesn't seem ignorant to the fact of it, whereas lots of other people here seem quite unaware of the fact that all these people know each other and that they're all close and whatever. So I like his read so far, and hopefully he'll use it to his advantage. But if he's not really an aggressive player, then I don't know if he'll be able to take that information and use it as he probably should be.
Yeah, so Jay was somebody that I didn't like originally think about when casting this season, but when I was like going through who I wanted to have, he was definitely like up there, but not like an original thought. But I'm really glad that we did end up bringing him back, because I feel like he brings an interesting point of view to the game. His original season, he was kind of like pinned with Jabbar, and he was just kind of like Jabbar's like sidekick, and so like I'm excited to see him play without Jabbar, because Jay really is a good player on his own, and I think he was just overshadowed by Jabbar in his season. So yeah, I'm excited to see him get to play without Jabbar. I do think that Jay has a good amount of connections on this cast. Um, I'm I don't think he has enough that it's gonna like hinder his game, where he's gonna like have to screw over people that are gonna be like really upset at him. Um, but we'll see. Jay is good at competitions, but not like amazing. But he definitely has like some comp aspects. Um, so I'm really interested to see how Jay does. Obviously, season two has like a pretty good track record of returning seasons. Um, so according to that, he has a pretty good shot. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to see Jay back. So yeah. Next from season four, our 16th placer, Brandon.
Um, I I'm like very mixed on how I think Brandon's gonna do. Um, from what I'm gathering, I think he's gonna be an early boot. Um, it's I don't really know. Like I haven't really gathered what people think. But I think people think he's super close with Connor, if I'm not mistaken. Um, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I read that wrong. And I think he has one other connection that people are kind of scared of, and it's not clicking to me. Um,
I will say him and Connor played Surviving 2 together, and they kind of worked together to idol out Keaton with Brandon's idol. So like they were kind of a duo, but then their tribe kind of got like gone. So I'm not sure who the other one is. So.
okay, well, I think he's gonna do all right. I think, I don't know. He's gonna do all right or like early boot. Honestly, I don't really see any other scenario, and I want him to do well. From what I've gathered, he's probably one of the more excited people to play this game. I know he has like the motivation, he has determination to do well. It's just his. I feel like from what I'm gathering, he hasn't built those strong connections early on. I think he also messaged a lot of people early and said, "Oh, like I want to work with you," and I think that was kind of like an opening message from what people were saying. So I think just messaging someone that initially, I think kind of makes people like sus of you just because it's how do you already want to work with me when we haven't talked yet? Um, and his presence on the calls, I I do think his talking wise on calls, like he doesn't talk too much, he doesn't talk too little, except sometimes he does. Sometimes he is the one overly dominating the conversation, but as a whole, I think he talks like just amount like to make himself known on the calls. I do think he's like Grace in an aspect where sometimes he takes the conversation kind of out of direction in the way he wants to go. Uh, but I don't know. I really hope he does well. Honestly, I really want to see him do well. I just think he needs to make those more personal connections if he wants to go far. And honestly, I think his key, and I hate to say this, I think he needs to just get really good with Rachel. I think if he's good with Rachel, I think he'll thrive. But if he's not good with Rachel, I think he's going to do horrible. So, yeah.
I honestly have never seen him in my life. I've never met him in my life. I've never spoken to him in my life. I don't know who this is. I wish I could say more. I watched his intro video, and he seems like he has potential. He seems like a talkative person and social, and that's really all I gathered from it. If he can be social, I feel like that's the most important. That's to me, that's the most important aspect of Big Brother, being social, because if you have an amazing social game, you don't have to win competitions. Competitions are what you need to do when you don't have a good social game, really. So if he can be social and he can build trust with people and not be an overly talkative presence, but still very social and in people's ear and get in with the right people, then he definitely can go far. It's just a matter of if he can do that. And I feel like with this cast, if you're really unconnected, it's going to be hard to find your footing with select people because they're already going to be connected to each other. so they might be kind of reluctant to connect to other people as well. Because they're already connected to so many people, they can't connect to everyone. They got to have some people that they kind of have as targets and whatnot. So if he's really on the outs like that, then I could easily see him being an easy target for them. In the early stages of the game. But I wish I had more to say, but I don't know him, so I can't really give a proper assessment on him or how I think he's going to play.
So Brandon was another person that I like immediately thought of when we were thinking about second chances. I'm really excited to see him get to play again. I'm not too confident in how I think he'll do. If I had to guess, I would probably have to guess pre-jury with this group. But I wouldn't be like shocked if he made it somewhat far. Yeah, he's definitely like an awkward person, but he is aware of it. So I think if he can like kind of relate himself to other people, I do think he could do well. My one thing though is like as soon as Brandon was revealed, Justin had like words in his production chat about it, and so that kind of scares me. Though Brandon was in that little group of people that that had agreed on safety at like the final 5 or whatever of the comp. So we'll see if Justin goes back on that or not. Because I think that if he was going to go back on it, I think it would be on Brandon. But I'm not too sure. So I'm interested to see how Brandon does this time. So we'll see. Next up is Nolan, who got 10th place in Power of 3.
I am so mixed on Nolan. I feel like I have no idea what he's doing in the game right now. I know it's day 1, but Nolan is the kind of person to be sarcastic no matter what. So I feel like in his prod chat, when he's saying certain stuff, I never know if he's serious. I never know if he's sarcastic. I don't know. I don't know his connection with. Apparently him and Justin do not have a great connection. But Justin is playing up this card up. He doesn't want to do the same thing again. He just won HOH, and I guess he won first HOH on his season, and he non-Nolan round 1. So I don't know if he's going to do that again. Maybe he will. I don't know, but a lot of people are talking decently of Nolan. I don't think a lot of this cast knew who Nolan was coming in, but I think it's one of those things where if you don't know someone, it's like you try to get to know them. And I think it's easier to get to know someone that you have no opinion on, like to like someone that you have no opinion on. And I do think a decent amount of these people are saying that they like him for the most part. But I'm just so conflicted. I have no idea where he's going to place. I think he could fall all over. I think he could go really early. He could go really far. He could go in the middle. Like I really have zero idea where Nolan's going to fall. I think a crucial thing that he needs to do is, I know he's being like told like in his prod chat about this like group. I think he needs to not do much with that information. If he does come out with that information, I think that is going to be an anchor to his game. Yeah, mainly if he targets those group of people. Like I don't think a lot of them will care if he's targeting that group of people, but if he's saying he's targeting that group of people because they're all together, I think that's where it might cause an issue. I really want Nolan to do well though. Even my combos with him outside the game, he's really wanted to come back. So I really hope he does well.
I love Nolan. He is one of my favorite people in this cast. Even though he can be a cunt at times, but I feel like he's very sarcastic and can be kind of rude, but that's just how he is. And I feel like if people, there like lots of people I feel like will know he's joking and being sarcastic and not, but occasionally you come into people in life and in games and whatever who take things very literally and very seriously, especially when you're messaging someone, on Skype, your true intent behind the words might not come across well. And so I could easily see if that's how he's speaking to people, it might not come across the best, or they might not really feel like they have that close of a connection with him, as a result. Or they might even just not like the way that he acts or, speaks, if that's just not their cup of tea. So I feel like that could become a detriment to him, but it could also be a really good asset to him, because if he can link up with people who enjoy his sense of humor, share his sense of humor, and just like his personality, and they can just joke around with him and make a really personal connection, I feel like that would be a great asset for him in his game. So I think he knows how to make those personal connections with people. He just might have to be a bit careful at first when he's first meeting these people to not overdo it or not be too, sarcastic or, Nolan, really in that way. But I have high hopes for him. I don't know how well he's going to do, but I really, really, really want him to do well. And I feel like I could see him getting, himself in trouble. Like Tyler said, if he goes to the wrong people with the wrong information and it gets out, I could see it happening. But, someone's got to make a move at some point and take, that type of information. It's just, I feel like I could see him going to the wrong person about it, and it ends up going, in the wrong place. But I think I don't think he'll be afraid to make a big move. I really don't. I could see him winning HOH and like putting up someone from that group. I 100%, like two people, maybe like a Rachel and, another big player from that group. I don't think he's scared. So yeah.
So Nolan was one of my favorites on Power of Three. I really liked watching him play. He was definitely an underdog that season for sure. So going into this season, I'm not confident that he doesn't have that many connections, and so I don't know if he's going to be able to integrate himself into this group. But if he is able to integrate himself, I do think he'll have a good shot. Honestly, I would predict pre-jury for Nolan, unfortunately, even though I do really like him. But I do think he might rub some people the wrong way, and he could get himself into some trouble. Obviously, in his season, Justin was HOH Week 1, technically, and nominated him, and so I know he's kind of scared about that this week. But I think that if he can get in good with Justin this week, he could possibly, I don't know what I'm saying. He could possibly be safe. So I think he's definitely going to have to put in some work, but I think he has a shot, but I'm not that confident, even though I really do like Nolan.
He also is camping right now, which is not very good for him. Yeah, I don't think he'll be able to put in that extra time with Justin.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we are at about halfway point. We have Madison, who was on last season. She got 7th place.
I personally never played with Madison, surprisingly. I feel like we have similar friends, so we have similar groups, but I've never actually played with her. She is someone that I really want to play with. She's also someone I'm super scared of to play with. I don't know how I feel about her gameplay. I feel like I saw it from a distance last season, and from what I gathered, she was super inactive early. And then she magically just picked it up and decided she was going to play. And she went home kind of shortly after that. So I feel like I don't really know much about her game, but I've seen a lot of games that she's played, and she does pretty well in almost every game she plays. And I just think that, like, even from just witnessing her on like eviction like calls that I've watched, or like anything like that, like she seems like a very likable person and is someone that you can get along with super easily. I do hope she does well on this cast, because I know, again, I think she's integrated in that group, but I do think she would be one of the first people to break from that group and try to make a move. I've also been told that she is very cutthroat, and when she's in a game, she doesn't really care about friendships to a degree. Like she's going to do what's best for the game. So I hope I get to see that side of her this game because I live for some cutthroat gameplay. And so far, it looks like she's being fairly active. I know she's been on a few calls. And I know that she's constantly been updating her prod chat, which makes me think she's being active with other people. So I have high hopes for her. I think it could go one of two ways. She's gonna either flip on that like group and she's gonna go home the next round or some kind of thing, or she's gonna flip on the group and thrive and go really far. So I honestly think she's gonna get like a fourth place. That's what I think is gonna happen to her, but we'll see.
I also think she's going to get like a sixth or fifth or fourth, like something around that area. I think she's going to do well. I think she's a really good game player from what I've heard. I've heard a lot of good things about her. I've heard a lot of bad things about her. I know that she has a reputation of being very snaky and she really doesn't care who she turns her back on. And I think that that can definitely help her in the game. But if this is the reputation that she has and people know it, I could easily see her being a target early on. She probably should be. I think she's one of the most dangerous players here. It's not surprising that she's one of the highest placing players here from her original season. And I think she's going to do well if she can do a little bit better in competitions than she did on her original season. I think she can easily dominate the game. I just remember rooting for her on her original season and she was just not able to fucking chew the damn cookie that she was trying to race, I think it was Brian with. And that was incredibly frustrating to watch. So hopefully she can chew a bit faster this season. And I think she'll do really, really well.
I'm very excited to have Madison back. She is somebody that was like kind of on the line of like, should we save her for All-Stars? Should we bring her back here? But obviously she's here. I do think that she has a really good shot with this cast. I think she has many options of people to go to that are not in like the like friend group or whatever. And I do think that she's willing to turn on the group. So it'll be interesting to see. She's kind of like not putting up with anybody's shit right now. Like she didn't really want to get on that house call, but she's still like making herself known by like going to the HOH and all that stuff. So yeah. I do worry for her with like this with the meetup thing between her and Seb, because I do think if her and Seb are final nominees together, I honestly think Seb stays. So I am worried for that aspect. So we'll kind of have to see if that really becomes a thing or not. Because if that does become a thing, I do think Madison will be in trouble. But her alliance was able to wiggle out of a lot of like hard points in the game last season. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see her play and see what she can do this time. Placement wise, I do agree with you guys. I do think that she will go pretty far. She also just came off of a win in Room Limit, so like that's something that people might be looking at. So yeah, I would say she'll probably do just a little better than she did last season if I had to guess. Next up, 13th place from Lights Out, Mr. Peyton Dao.
I've never played with him before. I've never interacted with him before. And like coming into the season, I thought he was going to be someone who was going to really flop. Not because I think he's a bad player to any extent. Like I think he is a social player from what I'm gathering. Like I feel like he's very like relaxed and chill for the most part from what I'm gathering. And like, he seems like someone very easy to get along with. And so far in this game, from what I've witnessed, he seems pretty good with a lot of people. Um, there's everyone that he's talking. The only person I'm kind of confused about is him and Billy. I don't really know what's going on there. I know that they've been talking, but I know initially Peyton just seems like he has no filter in his prod chat, so like maybe that's it. But he said like fuck like 4 people in the cast, like initially, like right off the get-go. But then he got added to his chat with like Chloe and Sam, which again I don't know how that happened. I get vibes him and Chloe will be very close. I feel like they're very similar personality. Don't really know how Sam got included in the mix. But I definitely am rooting for Peyton. He is someone that I really want to see do well. As of now, I think he definitely has a lot of potential. I just think he needs to play his cards right. And if he does, I could see him going very far. I know he's on to, I want to say he was on to Jerry and Grace, or was it Jerry and Grace?
It was Seb and Grace.
Seb and Grace. Okay. He made a comment about Seb and Grace because they were talking about their last game on call, and he was like, he definitely is onto them. And I think if he's onto them, he'll be onto other connections. But I think Peyton is smart enough to know that he can't say anything for now, and he's just going to ride with it until the time comes that he can use that information. Yeah, I'm honestly, he's one of my top supports now after this first night. I really hope he does well. So we'll see what happens.
Peyton is a very smart and dangerous player, I feel. I think that he's going to go really far. I know that on my season with him, I was one of the biggest people pushing for him to go home, and I kept telling people that he is a great competitor at competitions. I remember he beasted every competition before he went home, and that he was just very likable and social and just really, really dangerous, and that if he didn't go home that round, that he was just going to make it really, really far. I was very fearful of him and his abilities, and I feel like that's going to come into play here this season. I think that he's probably one of the best competitors, socially, strategically, competitively, whatever. I think he knows what is going on. And like Tyler said, he's going to sit on that information until he knows when he can use it to his benefit. And I think he'll find the right time and make the right connections to last long enough to do that. I have high hopes for him. I think he's going to make it really far. I know that during my season, one of his biggest downfalls was his inactivity because he was really busy working multiple jobs, and he would get on Zooms for like 5 minutes while he was at work. Like he was really, really busy, and that was one of the biggest downfalls. But hopefully he has more time in his hands now, and he's able to devote more time to the game and making more social connections. And if he can, then I think he's going to go really, really far. And I think top 5.
So looking at this cast before they like interacted or anything, I was really nervous for Peyton because this cast is full of people that know each other, and Peyton really is not that connected with this side of the community. So I was definitely very nervous for him, but seeing him on tonight's call, he has very easily been integrating himself into these groups. He got second in HOH for Circle Night, which I think was really impressive for the lack of connections he has. He's already in a group. I do agree with Tyler that I think him and Chloe will be close. I just hope that I hope that they don't like become a major duo that's like open for everybody to see. But yeah, I'm really excited to see him play, especially now watching him on night 1 and in the calls and everything. He kind of was doing, like Tyler and I had talked about, like how you really should go about a first night call, and I think Peyton was doing that really well, where he was definitely part of the conversation, but he wasn't taking over the conversation. So he was like sitting there, he would add his thoughts when he needed to, and then when it was time to be quiet, it was time to be quiet. He was kind of the one that was leading like the shot taking. So I do think like that social aspect is something that Peyton's really good at. So I'm really excited to see him back. After watching this first night, I'm really glad we brought him back. I think that he's going to be a really good addition to this cast, and yeah, I'm not exactly sure where I think he'll place, but I do think a good prediction would be top 6. Um, though, if he becomes like a comp beast, which I do think could happen with this cast, he could be taken out during like a live night. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he went out like in a double, where he doesn't have like that much time to convince people of anything. But yeah, I'm really excited that we have Peyton back. I'm glad to see him playing this. So yeah.
I was also just watching Justin's voice message, and
Yeah, I didn't get to listen to it yet.
he said he was very nervous about Peyton.
Okay.
But based off the rest of the context of it, I think Peyton should be good, but he's definitely a contender to be one of his nominees. So,
Oh, not that.
yeah.
I'll have to listen to it while you guys are talking about the next person. So next up from season 4, who got 10th place. Technically, you could classify it as ninth place as well. Is Lamar.
So Lamar is someone that this is the biggest wild card to me. I have zero idea how he's gonna do. From my perspective, he was super fucking inactive because he's the only person that did not talk in his prod chat. But other people are saying that they feel good with Lamar, like they like Lamar. So I think maybe he's doing something that I'm not seeing. Maybe he's making those connections. I predicted before the season that he was going to be like a second boot, which I don't know if I still stand by that. I think he is going to be pre-jury for sure, but I don't think he's going to be second boot. He definitely has by far the least amount of connections in this cast. But that I don't think with this cast that's necessarily a bad thing. If he can play off that card correctly, I think he can do really well. It's just one of those things where it's like if he doesn't use that card, he's probably not going to thrive. But if he uses that card where it's like someone pick me up, like use me as a vote, use me as a number, I think he might do really well. I sadly like it's really hard to say, but like with this cast, I really don't think no matter what he does, I don't really see anyone viewing him as a front runner, just because of his lack of connections in the cast. So unless he makes a very dominant presence, I don't really think he has a shot to win. But I do think if he makes those heavy moves that he needs, I think he needs to make like a really cutthroat move, and I think then he is a contender to win. But again, I think he's gonna go pre-jury, but there's potential for him to go far.
I do not know this person. I sadly don't know him. I obviously I saw his intro video and his action shot in the title sequence, whatever. And based off of that, and I know it's not a lot to go off of, but it definitely seemed like he didn't put so much effort into his videos as other people did. And I hope that's not a representation of his gameplay. But that was just the initial vibe and the only really vibe I could get from it. I think that if he's not really connected here, of course, he's going to naturally struggle, like we've been saying for everyone here who doesn't have as many connections, that it's going to be an uphill battle for them, but obviously not impossible. And if he can integrate himself well with other people, make some moves, make a couple alliances, win an HOH, and get some loyalty from people, I could see him going far. I don't think he's going to be someone that people see as a threat who they want to take out on their HOH kind of situation. So I could easily see him flying under the radar for a while. I just hope that he doesn't fly under the radar for too long to the point where it's too late and eventually there's nothing he can do. But I think that he could easily be one of those people that when this big friend group kind of crumbles and people start flipping, they could easily flip to him and say, I want to turn on these people, like I need you on my side. So he could easily become an instrumental person in any sort of flip or alliance or whatever, if he can survive that long. So I'd like to see it happen. I just don't really know him well enough to make any sort of prediction either way.
So Lamar is definitely the person with the least connections on this cast, like, except for like maybe Peyton, but like Lamar is very much removed from the community. So part of me was surprised he even like said yes when I asked him back, but I'm very glad he said yes, because I do think he was in a good position in his season. But with the triple, he kind of got screwed over. I think in this season, I think he's either going to be a really early boot, or I think he's going to be kind of dragged to the end. So we'll have to see like which way that goes. I don't necessarily see him being like the biggest player of the season, but he could surprise us. I think if he starts like really talking to people, I think he has a good shot. I just don't know if he's going to do that or not. So yeah. He also, like, as I said, he's like very much removed from the community. He's also very much removed from like 1984. So a lot of people didn't even expect him to actually play. So yeah, I'm not too sure about what connections he's going to have. But I do think he could be an instrumental number for people when like we have these big groups forming. He could be somebody that kind of flips back and forth. So, yep. Next, from season 2, we have our 4th placer, Mr. Taylor Reynolds.
So this is the person I'm most excited to see play coming into this game. He's a snaky ass bitch, and I hope to never play with him again. But I'm excited to watch him play. And I don't know. I'm conflicted. I think he has potential to do really well. Again, I think him and Jay are in the same boat for me, where again, they obviously are close as well, but I think Caleb is someone who really likes to float. Like he's like the definition of a floater. Like wherever the power is, that's where Caleb is. And I think in a cast like this, that is not going to fly. So I really hope he kind of adapts to that early on and kind of realizes that that strategy is not going to work. I also don't know if people are going to think of this, but he is the highest placing person in the cast. And anyone who actually kept up with season 2 knows that he was a big threat and he was very sneaky. So that's kind of bad. However, I think the plus side to it is Rachel, when she plays these games, attaches herself to one person who she doesn't know. And I think that one person is Caleb. And I do think that as of now, Rachel would probably do anything to protect Caleb. Even on the call that Rachel, Seb, and Jerry had, Rachel spoke very highly of Caleb. And I believe Jerry and Seb did as well. I think he has potential. He's definitely, I would say he's going to make jury for sure. I just worry once that time comes. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I know he also said that he's going to be slightly inactive because of his work schedule and he's going on a vacation. So his activity may play a factor in that. He also already went to bed after getting home like an hour and a half ago. So I really hope that's not what he does every day. Otherwise, he might be in trouble. But I'm really excited to see him play. I think he has a lot of potential, 100%. He just, if he applies himself, I think he will do great. I don't know. I'm trying to think like what he needs to do, and I don't really know what he needs to do, but I know he's really good with Jay. He's good with Rachel. I don't really know. I could see him and Peyton being really close in the game. And I don't really know what other connections he has, honestly. But again, I think he's gonna he's either going to be an early juror or he's going to go really far, depending on how his early game is. But we'll see.
I think that I don't know him that well, but I do know him a bit, and I feel like he's very strategic and social and likable. And based off of what you have said about his gameplay on his original season, he seems like a huge threat. He's the highest placing person to return here. Seems like he's more well suited to an all-star season than a second chance season, but here he is. I feel like people should be smart and recognize his threat level and take a shot when they can, but I don't really know if they will or not. If Rachel does choose to latch onto him and protect him with her life, then that probably means that other people are not going to be coming for him very often, at least anyone who Rachel's close with, and that's a great portion of the cast. So I feel like if he's in with Rachel like that, then he's pretty set. I think that he's going to go really far. I would be surprised if he doesn't, and if he doesn't, I would probably put it on something like inactivity or what have you at that point. Because obviously, even if Rachel's protecting him, if someone wins HOH who's close to Rachel and they have barely spoken to Caleb at all, they could probably still put Caleb up and justify it, regardless of what Rachel says or wants, But I think he's going to go far. I think he clearly knows how to play. He's clearly, ruthless, and I think that he'll do what he has to do to get by. It's just a matter of people not really seeing his threat level until it's too late. But I think he'll make jury for sure.
I feel like I've said this about almost everybody, but like I am really excited to see Caleb come back. So Zach, you kind of said like he kind of belongs in an all-star season. Well, he was invited to all-stars and he declined, just based on timing. But I think this time around, I think Caleb's the type of person that even though I don't think he has that many connections, I think he's easily able to create connections just because he is a very likable person. So he kind of gave us like his preseason like strategy, and it kind of was like to float, which like I respected if you can do it well. But he doesn't want to make himself too big of a target, and so I think like the one downfall of his game will be him, like how busy he is. I think that he is at least decent at comps. He is really good socially. So Caleb winning this game would not shock me at all. But I also feel like he's going to be one of those people that becomes a big target towards the end that nobody's going to want to let get to the end. And so I do see him getting like 4th, 5th, 6th place. So also Jonah is also a 4th placer. So I don't think the cast has kind of realized that yet, that Jonah is also in that 4th place position. But Caleb, I believe, is the highest in the power rankings. And I know, at least in All Stars, people paid attention to that and not really targeted Sam for that, but it was a thought. And so Caleb could possibly be targeted for that. He kind of did mention being worried about that, but
they were talking about the power rankings on the call earlier.
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily too worried about power rankings, but it is at least out there. So, but I'm really glad to see Caleb back. I do think him and Rachel will probably work well together. I think that him, Brandon, and Jonah might become a thing. I could see him working with Peyton, him and Jay, obviously, because of the season thing. So yeah, if Caleb doesn't make jury, I'll be shocked. And I think the only reason it would be if he becomes an actor. So next up, one of my favorites, Mr. Josh Rogers, who got 15th last season.
Josh from the get-go is one of my favorites in the cast. I do think like my ideal person on a main call is honestly like him and Peyton. I think they did very well at making their presence known, but not being the main topic of discussion. And they chimed in and tried to relate to everything that was said. But they didn't kind of steer the conversation, and they didn't not talk at all. There were also two of the main people who were like having shots with people, which from my experience, I think is a great trust builder in these games. Like, I don't know, for me, I think it's like, it makes you seem super fun and easy to talk to from my experience. If you're just like, yeah, like, let's have a drink, or let's, like that kind of thing. And I think it was perceived well on the main call. I didn't really get any vibes that people did not like him. I do think, again, him, Jay, and Jerry, I don't know if that's going to become a thing or what, but it was definitely discussed. And I do think Josh does have connections all over. I think he's in the same boat as Madison, where I think he has connections, but I don't think he has super strong connections. I think they're like coming into the game. I think he definitely has relationships, but they're not unbreakable to any degree. And if he has to screw someone over, I don't think they'll shed a tear over it, kind of thing. So I think he has that wiggle room. Again, I've never seen him as a player, so I don't really know what he's capable of, but he definitely seems very social. He seems very easy to talk to. He seems very nice. And so I'm sure this cast is gonna really like him. And I see him getting jury, unless, like, again, something blows up and he doesn't. I don't want to say that he's like my winner pick, but he's like, I think I would say he's going to make final two. I don't know why. I think he's going to make final two. I just feel it. So I also really want him to do well. And maybe that's just me hoping he does. But yeah.
I love Josh. I've known him for a really long time, and he always puts his all into every game. He's super likable, super social, really just a nice person. And I enjoy playing with him. And I feel like that's a generally shared consensus about him from people. I feel like people gravitate towards him and they like working with him. He's a very trustworthy person and comes off as such. And so I think he's going to do well, and he's going to go far. Like Tyler said, similarly to Madison, I think that he's connected to the group, but he knows where he stands, I would assume. And I don't think he'd be afraid to make a move, that benefits him, because, I think he'd be aware of the reality of the situation, if he wasn't to make a move at some point. He's a good player, smart player. He's not just going to lay down and do nothing and just wait for other people to make moves. So I just really have high hopes for him, and I think that he's going to come through. I don't know about final two, but I definitely think top placement, jury 100%. And if not, I'll be very surprised and disappointed. But I think he's really, really going to do well.
I love Josh Rogers. He's my duo from Prestige. So I was very disappointed last season when he left so early. I think he's already doing much better socially than he did last season. I agree with Tyler that he was definitely one of the best tonight. I think that Josh is just like a genuinely kind person. And I almost feel like Josh is an active version of Caleb. And so I think that Josh is somebody that, like, I don't know what he would do if he got power, because it's hard for me to tell what he would do if he had to sit there and like say like you are my targets. I don't know how he would do with that. I think the one time he's played a Big Brother game other than 1984, I think he left pretty early. So I don't know if he had an HOH there. So Josh is like a very loyal player until you give him a reason to not be loyal. So I think he might like gun for an HOH after somebody wrongs him, possibly, and then go for somebody. But yeah, I definitely see Josh making it pretty far. I don't know if I see him as my winner pick with this cast just because of similar reasons with Caleb. I think he'll get far and then people will be like, oh, we can't let him make it to the end because he'll win. So maybe like a third place or I don't know. But I do think Josh is going to make it far this time. He is also playing YouTube Survivor right now. So he's kind of split between two games. But I do think that he's kind of making this his priority. So we'll have to see how that goes. So, okay. Next up, we have Sam T, who left on his own Power of Three in 19 Days for Power of Three. So, yeah.
Well, okay. So I really don't know how to feel about him. Again, he's another wild card. I just watched Justin's voice memo all the way through, and from what I gathered, he's gonna be an initial nom with Connor. He didn't say that. He listed a bunch of names, but if I had to guess out of the people he named, I would say he's nomming Sam and Connor. So I feel like that leaves Sam in a weird spot because if Connor does come back online, I do think Connor could easily flip the vote and make Sam a first boot. I don't know how many people would stick their neck out for Sam either. It would kind of be like if he was a final nominee, I think he would have to have the momentum to stay initially. And if he doesn't, I don't really see the vote flipping off of him. Again, I hate to say it, but I definitely think he's going to be a pre-jury boot. It's just, he made his rounds a lot in the beginning, and I don't know how those calls went, obviously, but him just telling people, like him just having like 3 15-minute calls right off the get-go kind of is weird to me because 15-minute calls typically go nowhere if it's your first call and you typically talked about nothing and you didn't really build connections. So I think he really needs to stay off the block. And then if he stays off the block, he might find a footing with his group of Peyton and Chloe. I don't think we've heard from him about how he feels about it. So I don't really know if that's a group he plans on sticking with or what. But I do know that he threw the competition. So if he goes home first, that's going to be a slap in the face. But I really hope he doesn't get first boot, but we'll see what happens.
I know Sam, I've played with him before. I don't really know. I feel like he's going to be, especially after what you said about Justin, I feel like I could easily see him going home this first week. I don't think he has that many connections. And from what I've heard, it just doesn't seem like that many people are vibing that well with him right now, with the exception of the people who he has that 3-person chat with. I don't know. I really don't have high hopes or expectations. I feel like one of the early boots, if not first week, second, third, fourth week. I don't know. I don't really know if he has the social connections to integrate himself or sociability to get people to like him and want to keep him around, especially when they're already so connected. It's the plight of everyone in this cast who's not super connected to the rest of them. They have to work twice as hard to integrate themselves in. And I don't know if he's going to do that, if he's just doing 10, 15-minute calls with people. I just don't think that's enough. So I don't know. I see it being one of the first boots, and hopefully I'm wrong because I'd love to see, the game take surprising twists and turns. I think him going first is a little predictable here, but it is what it is.
So Sam is an interesting player. He kind of flamed out in his season. It was really weird. I don't know what he was really thinking, going up on the block on purpose. But yeah, so Sam, I do think is somebody that doesn't necessarily have great connections on this cast. I think a lot of people have bad blood with him. So he was kind of doing rounds to make up for that. at the beginning, and I don't know how well it worked because it probably came off as fake to a lot of people. So I'm interested to see what happens this week. I do agree that he is definitely an option for a nominee this week. I do believe that Connor will be back um, before like the vote and veto and everything. So I do think that he could possibly flip it around. So we'll kind of have to see how that goes. I do have to agree that I think Sam will probably be a pre-juror this season. So yeah. Next up, we have Mr. Billy Rocker, who is from Lights Out.
Billy, from what I've gathered, is a very paranoid player. And I think paranoid players are worse in Big Brother than Survivor. Hold on, give me 1 second. Sorry. Paranoid players in Big Brother are not very good because when you're paranoid, you typically get on that round. That's just how it works. You like, even when I think I'm going up in a Big Brother game, I never express it to anybody because the chance that you don't go up, you don't go up. But the second you tell someone that you think you're going up, that a word flows. And I think Billy's one of those people that will let the word flow that he thinks he's going up, which makes, even if you're just going up as like a pawn or whatever, I feel like if the HOH catch wind of that, you immediately become a target and it's just never good. I do think he has potential. I think he has a lot of good ideas. I think he's really good at reading people. It's just, he has to learn how to control those reads and control those emotions. I am really excited for him to play, and I really want him to do well because I do think he'll bring a lot to the table. I don't think he's going to go up round one, so I think he's good for now. And I don't know. I don't really know what he has to do. Like, I feel like for everyone else, I kind of see like their path as to how they get far. I don't really know what Billy has to do to get far. I just think he needs to build those connections. And I do think he's going to put his heart and soul into this game. I don't think he has much going on right now. I think he has a lot of free time. So I do think if he sticks around, he has potential to go far or be an early boot. So I'm hoping for the best.
I love Billy. I know that this game came right at like the perfect time for him in his life. He told me that he has more time on his hands right now than like ever really, and that he's really has just more time to invest in all these types of online social games than before. So I think that's going to work really, really well for his benefit. I know that he wants to play this season so badly. He's going to put everything he can into it, and he's going to be devastated if it doesn't go his way again, like he was the first time. He was on my original season, and his doubt. Well, I don't know if I would call this a doubt because he didn't really do anything wrong, in my opinion, that got him sent home. Then he was just very, very trusting in the wrong people. He trusted the HOA to then put him up, and then he trusted people when they told him that they were either on the fence or leaning towards saving him. Meanwhile, behind his back, they were 1000% evicting him, and I had to tell him straight up on a call. I had to say, these people are already out, like, you're going home, like, they're lying to you. So I worry for him and his trusting nature because he is very trusting of people, and I feel like he is someone who, when you give him your word, he will take that and value it and believe it. And we all know that in Big Brother, people give their word on anything, whether it's true or not. And I feel like that can easily be worked towards his detriment. I think that he needs to realize that even if people give their word, it doesn't really mean anything. And he really, really needs to make those solid connections and, just make sure that he's good with as many people as possible. Because again, it's going to be an uphill battle for him because I don't know how aware of the outside social connections he is, or if he really has that many. I know that he knows a decent amount of people. I know that he is friendly with some people, but I don't know how friendly, and I don't really know if I see them valuing him and his loyalty and allegiance over other people. So I worry that he could be pre-jury again. I pray that that's not the case. I want to see him go far, and I know he has what it takes. It's just a matter of if he can really integrate himself, talk to people all day long, really make sure he's good with people, and hope that the wrong people don't win HOH or that he wins one. I think he really needs to win an HOH and show people his loyalty through having an HOH and not putting them on the block, and hopefully get in some alliances as quickly as possible.
Once again, I'm really excited to see Billy play. I think that he was kind of pushed in his season. I think he definitely is one of the most excited people out of everybody that's back. He has kind of been hyping up himself in his chat preseason. I think connections wise, I know he really likes Rachel. I know he really likes Chloe. So I don't know if that will be good for him or bad for him, because I'm not sure how those two feel about him. So I just hope he doesn't put too much trust into them. If I had to guess, I honestly feel like Billy's going to be early jury. I don't know why. That's kind of the vibe I get. I do hope he at least makes jury, because I do think he deserves it. I think he's one of the more cracked players on this cast and more unpredictable people on this cast. So I think that'll be an interesting thing for this season. So yeah, I'm really excited to see Billy. I have literally no idea what he's gonna do on this season. I hope he can make connections with new people. I know that him and Peyton apparently have some kind of beef or something. I don't know if Billy is recognizing it though, but Peyton's definitely said something about it, so we'll have to see what happens there. So also, I kind of want to give an update. There is now a chat for Jerry, Jay, and Josh called the Janisty or whatever. So I don't know how long that's gonna last, but it is an official thing now. So.
And they're on call right now. So
right. So I will be joining when we're done. So next up, our fourth placer from season 3, Mr. Jonah.
Jonah is also someone I kind of worry for. I think I don't know. I'm very conflicted. Especially this night one. I know he's had personal issues going on this night one, but he's definitely one of the more inactive players, and I do think a lot of people are recognizing it right now. So I really hope with these upcoming days he can recover from that, because obviously night one's not everything, but I do think the beginning portion of the game is the most important part of the game. And if you're not making yourself available in the early stages, people kind of carry that onward throughout the game. And I don't know, I didn't really keep up with that season, honestly. That's the one season I really did not. So I don't know what he did or what he's capable of. I do think he doesn't seem like one of the more social players in the game. He strikes me as someone who's very strategic and strictly strategic. He would rather make the moves than build the connections and bonds all day long. But I think without the social aspect of the game, you can't capitalize on the strategic aspect of the game. And I think that's going to be where he lacks in this cast. Especially, I don't know, with this cast, I think you really need to integrate yourself with people if you're not integrated already, or else you're just going to be screwed. And that's where I see him falling. I think he's going to be a pre-jury boot. I feel like I've said that for more than enough spots for the pre-jury. So clearly someone's not going to be pre-jury. But I really hope he does well. He's one of the people that I am excited to see, and I hope he does well. I think if he finds himself in a good spot, he might make it far, but I think he really needs to find those group of people first.
I really like Jonah. He's a really nice guy. And very smart and strategic. But again, I worry for him socially. I, he was in the second 1984 mini, and I felt like his downfall there was precisely that. There were a lot of prior connections that people had, and he was able to survive for a while people were kind of going after one another because there was this group going after that group and whatever, and he was kind of able to float through the middle, but he didn't really make connections with enough people, and he ended up getting one of the first jury spots there. And I feel like that's something that could easily happen to him here. I feel like he could go down the middle while these people with connections are kind of going after each other, but if he isn't able to make those social connections, I just think that this cast is going to be very, 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 very social. And if your social game is lacking, like, there's no hope for you here. So if his social game is lacking and he continues to be a bit inactive, unfortunately, I feel like he will be pre-jury, which I don't want to see, but I feel like that's what's going to happen unless he really steps it up and changes his strategy and realizes that this is a social cast. He has to be social. There's no way around it.
So in Jonah's, in his first season, he was very under the radar. Not necessarily inactive, even though the cast kind of saw him that way, but he was in his production chat all the time, very accurately saying how the game was going. So I feel like him and Caleb Reynolds kind of play a similar game, but Jonah doesn't have the social part of that game. So I think Jonah does definitely need to step up his social game. He's definitely kind of a game bot. I would predict Jonah to be pre-jury here, but I do think he has the ability to make it far if he can step up that social game. So I think he'll probably end up laying low for a while, but I think that he could become somebody that's a pawn that just gets voted out early on, and there's not going to be much he can do about it. That's kind of where I think Jonah's going to go, but I do think he has potential to be a really good player this season, depending on his social abilities. Last up, we have Connor, all the way back from season 1.
So initially this was my winner pick, and he is still my winner pick if he comes back soon enough. For me, I think he's going to get last or first. That's where I see him placing. I don't really see an in-between for me, and I have no reasoning to back up why I think he's going to win. I just think Connor is very smart. I played Perception with him, and he was full of great ideas, except his great ideas, his reads of the game were horribly wrong. He kind of targeted everybody that had his back and kind of said that they were all together, which he was correct. They were all together, except they were all together for his best interest. Whereas everyone that he was leaking those people to were the people that actually wanted him out. So he is a very smart player. He does look at the bigger picture in games. I do think Connor's very good at taking emotion out of the game completely. He will play strictly the game. He does not care if he, well, I'm not saying he doesn't care, but he doesn't care if he hurts your feelings in the process. If he has to cut you, he has to cut you, and he won't think twice about it. And I think given this cast, he's not horribly connected and he's not really well connected. He's on that middle ground, which I think in a cast is where you want to be. You want to be connected, but you don't want to know everybody. And I think that's exactly where he falls. I think he's going to be given the position. Again, this is also me, comes back and stays. He's going to be given the position where he can make the moves he needs to make, but he is going to also be in the position where I think no matter who wins HOH in these upcoming rounds, he will be fine. So I don't know. I just think he is gonna maneuver his way to the end. I don't know his schedule. I know when I played with him in Perception, he just started a full-time job, and that did alter a lot of his gameplay. So I don't know if that's gonna alter this as well, or if something's changed. But yeah, he is my winner prediction or my first boot prediction. One of the two.
I hate to say it again. I don't know who he is. I've seen him around a bit. Like I know his face, I know his name, and all I know is that he can be very cutthroat and shady, and that's all I've heard about him ever. I don't really know much more about him at all, and I don't really know how well he's going to do here. If he's already being discussed as going up week one, I think that if he goes up, what is it? Like people are saying, or Justin saying, him and Sam. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, which like roughly, it's not set in stone.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like official or anything. Justin
Connor,
was
yes.
kind of throwing out names. I do think Connor will probably go up
Yeah.
unless he magically shows up tomorrow, but I don't think we're gonna see Connor's face until Monday. So, but that is obviously before like veto's over. So
I think that if he is able to, if it is him and Sam as like final nominees or something, based off of what I've heard about Sam, what I know about Sam, I feel like it's something possible that he stays. If it's him against anyone else, well, not anyone else, but if it's him against most other people, I think he'll probably go home at least this week. I just don't really see him faring that well this week, and if he isn't able to make it through, he'll probably make it a while, but I don't really have high hopes as a whole. I just don't think he has the connections, but I think that I'm thinking like early jury probably, but I don't really think like super far or anything like that. But I don't really know him all that well. Just heard a bit about him here and there.
I'm very excited to see Connor back. After season one, he kind of flamed out. Like in his original season, he focused so much energy on getting Alex Jackson out of the game that the next week he was gone. So, I think he's somebody that I've definitely wanted to return. For a while, Connor probably would have been on Dead Man Walking, but we just were not on good terms at the time. So I'm glad that like we were able to get through that and we're able to have him here. He obviously played Surviving 2 as well. He was a big character on there, but obviously his tribe got pagonged, so there wasn't really much you could do about it. But Connor is the type of person that like he will flip on whatever ally whenever, but sometimes for no reason. So like that's something that kind of scares me about Connor, is that he might just have an idea and think it would be fun and he does it even if it's not good for his game. So because like he had Brandon idle out Keaton when Keaton was very much loyal to Connor. So it did not make any sense for Connor to do that, but he did it anyway. So if Connor is up to like those type of shenanigans, I'm not sure that he'll do that well, but I agree with Tyler. I do think Connor does have like winner vibes for this season. But I'm worried about him this first week. So I think if he makes it past this first week, he has a really good shot. But I think he has a tough road to climb because of not having these like night one connections that everybody else is obviously getting. So yeah. So that's pretty much it for the assessment portion of this. So we can go around and say a first boot prediction and then a winner prediction. So we can just go in the same order, I guess. We'll do first boot prediction first.
Okay. Honestly, I think Sam is gonna be first boot.
I agree. Sam would be my first boot prediction.
I mean, honestly, I think Sam is my first boot prediction as well, which is like so bad. Let's say if I have to pick somebody other than Sam, I guess Brandon, maybe.
I don't think that. I think
but-
if Jerry or no, I think if Justin goes back on his word round one, he is also going to be screwed though.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess I'll just stick to Sam. Okay, and then we can do one winner prediction.
I guess. Well, with my logic, I guess Connor because Connor's not first boot. So I think Connor has a lot of potential. It's like the most iffy first boot predict or the most iffy winner prediction I've ever given because he has very high possibility of getting first boot.
I might go in this very moment right here at 1:36 a.m. I am thinking Madison.
Okay. I think if you had asked me 24 hours ago, I don't know what I would have said, but I do think I'm gonna say Josh. Which like I don't think I would have said that 24 hours ago going into the season because I wasn't too confident in Josh's abilities in Big Brother. But after seeing him on tonight's call, I do have more confidence in him. I feel like Peyton and Caleb are kind of honorable mentions, but I am gonna say Josh. Yeah. And I want to kind of discuss what season we think is going to perform best overall. Just because it was like kind of brought up in discussion earlier in the alumni chat. I can start this one off. I do think like overall season 1, I feel like has overall like really strong contenders. Obviously we said season 2 is always won our returning seasons. And I do think that Caleb and Jay both have good shots. But I think overall, I think season 1 might take it here. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think. Wait, who is from season 3 and 4?
3 was Grace and Jonah. 4 is Lamar and Brandon.
Ooh, those are the 2 roughest seasons, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I'm gonna go with season 2, and like maybe I'm biased, but I think Jay and Caleb. I think Jay is naturally set up really well right now, from what I'm seeing, and Caleb I think is just a social butterfly, and like I feel like once you talk to Caleb, you can't help but love Caleb. So I think they're both gonna make jury for sure. In terms of strong gameplay, I would not go for that. I would not say season 2 in terms of making big moves, making power moves like that. But I think in terms of placements, I think season 2 is gonna thrive.
As much as I want to say Lights Out, I feel like the people who are here from Lights Out, I have faith in all of them, but for the most part, I don't think that they're gonna do so well. I'm feeling like early jury for like most of them except for like Peyton. So I am gonna go with Lockdown. I feel like Lockdown, you have Rachel who's like locked in for jury no matter what. You have Madison who I think is, I just said that I feel like she's gonna win. You have Josh. I think Josh is the only one really well. Is there anyone else? No. That's it. Okay, I think all
Actually, I changed my mind. Lockdown.
Honestly, yeah. I do think Lockdown actually, like thinking about it, they do have a pretty good shot. I'd say for me, it's probably 1, 8, 2. I think.
I'm changing my mind. Lockdown's first, then 2, then 1.
Yeah, I think it would be, yeah. For me, I'd say 1, 8, 2, and then I feel like it would be 7, 5, 3, 4.
Wait, who's from 7?
7 is Jerry, Aiden, Billy, Chloe.
That's
why I'm like,
are all like hit or miss.
That's
Exactly.
why. Like I feel
Exactly.
like they could all do so well, and they could like do so well and represent the season well, or they can
Mhm.
all flop.
And then
Literally.
season 5, who's from season 5?
That's Justin, Sam, and Nolan. Which I feel like that group is going to be the first ones to turn on each other. Like if we were doing any type of like teams thing, they would be the one that implode first between each other. Like I
Mhm.
think I could see a season alliance between every single season except for 5. Like there's no way season 5 ever has a
Season 5 so mad. Like
alliance.
Justin already wants to target people from 5. So
Like I would not be shocked if somehow Justin's mind is changed and he nominates Nolan and Sam tomorrow. Like I would not be shocked. He has many reasons to do it.
yeah.
So. Okay. Well, thank you, Zach, for joining us. Thank you, Tyler, for showing up. And so with that, that's been the cast assessment. So congratulations to whoever's won, because obviously when this is put out, you will have won already. So with that, that is all.